He promised himself he'd never love again. Not after everything he lost. Not after the night he held his wife's trembling hand as her heartbeat faded beneath his fingers, leaving behind a silence so loud it swallowed him whole. For years, that silence became his companion, its weight heavy enough to keep him from ever believing he could feel again. But fate has a cruel sense of timing. Because the moment he stopped searching, the moment he truly gave up, she walked in, and with one smile, she reminded him what it felt like to be alive. Mark Lawson had built his world out of routines and quiet rooms. Every morning started the same: coffee at 6:30, pancakes for his daughter Lily at 7 o'clock, and the sound of her laughter echoing through a house too big for two people. She was 6 now, bright, curious, and the only reason he still had light in his life. Her mother, Emma, had passed away 3 years earlier after a long battle with cancer. Mark had buried her smile in the same soil that held his hope, and since then, love had been something that existed only in bedtime stories he read to Lily. He worked as a mechanic in a small-town garage. Grease, engines, and broken parts, those were easy to fix. People weren't. He'd stopped going out, stopped talking about feelings, and started avoiding anyone who tried to pull him out of the cocoon he'd built around his pain. But Lily, she was different. She'd tug at his shirt and ask, "Daddy, why don't you smile when I do?" He'd laugh it off. "I do smile, sweetheart." But even she knew, it never reached his eyes. Then one Friday afternoon, life shifted. The garage was packed, the air thick with oil and heat when the door swung open and a woman stepped in, rain dripping off her coat, a notebook in her hand, and eyes that seemed to carry their own storm. "Hi," she said with a soft, uncertain smile. "You must be Mark Lawson." "I'm Claire. My car's been making a strange sound since yesterday, and everyone in town says you're the only one who can figure it out." He wiped his hands on a rag, barely glancing at her. "Depends on the sound. Engine? Transmission? Something rattling?" She tilted her head, studying him. "Honestly? I don't know. I just know it's not supposed to sound like a dying animal." That made him look up, and for the first time in years, someone's laughter made him forget the ache in his chest. She had this way of speaking that was both calm and electric. Confident but gentle. Over the next few days, she returned more than once, sometimes for updates on her car, sometimes just to talk. She was a children's book illustrator who had recently moved to town to escape the noise of the city. When Lily met her, they clicked instantly. Claire had a way of turning ordinary moments into magic: doodles on napkins, stories about talking stars, and silly little jokes that made Lily giggle till her cheeks hurt, and Mark watched from a distance. Torn, every part of him wanted to stay safe, to keep love locked away, untouched. But every time Claire smiled at his daughter, he felt something shift. Like a door creaking open in a room he'd sworn never to enter again. One evening, she stopped by to pick up her fixed car. The sun was dipping low, casting gold across the dusty floor. Lily ran up to her with a handmade drawing, 3 stick figures holding hands under a rainbow. "That's you, Daddy, and Miss Claire." Mark froze. He opened his mouth to say something, but Claire only smiled, kneeling beside Lily. "That's beautiful. I think I'll keep it forever." Something broke inside him then, something heavy, something that had kept him prisoner for too long. That night, after Lily fell asleep, he stood by the window, staring out at the quiet street. He hadn't realized how lonely it had been until now. He could still hear Emma's voice in the back of his mind, soft, fading. "Promise me you'll live, Mark. Don't let love die with me." He whispered into the dark, "I'm trying." Weeks turned into months. Claire became part of their lives, not because she tried, but because she fit. Sunday breakfasts, school projects, quiet evenings spent sketching while Lily colored beside her. She never pushed, never asked about his past, but her presence spoke volumes. Then one winter night, it all came crashing down. Mark got a call from Lily's school. She had a fever and collapsed during class. He raced through the snow, panic in every heartbeat. At the hospital, the sterile air and blinking monitors dragged him straight back to the day he'd lost Emma. His chest tightened, memories clawing at him. But this time, he wasn't alone. Claire was there, her hand gripping his, steady and strong. "She's going to be okay," she whispered, and she was right. Lily recovered after a few days. It was just an infection, but that scare shattered every wall Mark had left. He realized he'd been running from life itself, afraid of losing what he hadn't even dared to claim. When they got home, Lily curled up in her bed, exhausted but smiling. "Daddy," she murmured, "Miss Claire makes you smile like Mommy used to." He sat there in silence, tears burning in his eyes. And when he looked up, Claire was standing by the doorway, watching him with that same quiet warmth that had first drawn him in. He crossed the room, voice trembling. "I promised I'd never love again. I thought if I did, it'd be like betraying her." Claire stepped closer. "Loving again doesn't mean forgetting. It means you're still alive." For the first time in years, he didn't run from the truth. He reached out, pulling her into a trembling embrace. That night wasn't about romance or grand gestures, it was about healing. Two broken hearts learning that grief doesn't end, it just changes shape. And sometimes, love walks back into your life disguised as a second chance. Months later, the garage looked different. A small plant sat by the counter. Lily's drawings covered the walls. And beside Mark, handing him a wrench, was Claire, smiling, alive, and real. He still visited Emma's grave on Sundays, still whispered his thanks for the life they'd shared. But now, when he left, he no longer walked away alone, because sometimes, love doesn't replace what you've lost. It reminds you that the heart, no matter how shattered, can still find a way to beat again. And as the sun rose behind them, Mark finally smiled the way Lily always wished he would, fully, fearlessly, and free.